Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum.
Amazing. I think you highlight some very important points in your talk related to crises and rapid change, right?
Sorry.
So the question becomes is, things are changing so fast, things are moving so quickly. How do we ensure that we maintain our integrity in environments that are changing so fast and continue to make the right decisions and serve the people and serve, they talk about the greater good, which is what Building Medina is about. How do we, Dr. Rashid, just quick? Yeah.
I think, for me, when you're making decisions, there's this concept of level 1 decision making and level 2 decision making. The immediate one you make, and which is a type 1 decision. It's like there's an accident in front of you, you must make a decision, or something that's a bit more thoughtful. And particularly in type 2 decision-making situations, we really have to use what's called sense-making. And sense-making is made up of looking at all the data in front of you. But it's not just sense-making in a flat data way. It's then applying your prior experience, your central core. And I think that's where people, the leader of the USA right now just makes decision on what neither a central core or information in front of him. But if we can use a combination of our core purpose, like you alluded to, as well as making sense of the data, I think that will lead to much more effective decisions in any situation, not only in a crisis.
Shukran. Shahiem, Dr. Shahiem.
Shukran.
You've got specific experience on cultivating leaders. So I think the question becomes, adding to what Dr. Rashid has said, how do we cultivate that from an educational perspective? I know you're going to be talking about education a bit later, but just a few words on that.
Shukran, Ismail. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think our duty to society is an important one, insofar as cultivating leaders is concerned. And the contemporary era of knowledge generation, technology, innovation, demands of us to cultivate leaders at a younger age than we ever used to in the past. I think it's time we move beyond paying lip service to including young people in leadership discourse. I believe that leaders of a young age need to come to the fore, but they can only come to the fore if the environment is created for them to come to the fore. In years gone by, an older generation would typically point to the younger generation and say the youth are missing. They're missing because we don't allow them a space or a seat at the table. And so one of the things that I work very hard on, and I'm fortunate that I can do this, is because I'm in education and my profession affords me this opportunity, is to cultivate leaders not only for the future, but for today until the future. So it's a philosophical point, Isma, but it's an important one to start there, that our duty to the youth is the way that we crack the code, ironically, on how to solve a leadership crisis facing the Ummah at the moment.
Shukran. And I think the previous panel was also a little bit about leadership. So we've got a question from the audience, right? How does one maintain Islamic values as leaders within leadership? I think it talks back to integrity. You've spoken about purpose in your talk, and justice and all of these things. So how do you, you as a CIO, you may be making decisions, and you've got to report to people. And let's take Gaza as an example. You may be forced or called on to make a decision that may be against your moral and ethical values. For example, buying a product from a provider that is, let's say, complicit in the genocide. So how do you navigate that as a CIO?
So I think, Ismail, it starts with firstly understanding your values, right? What are your values, and what determines you to make that decision? There's a few aspects that you have to understand, and I think understanding the framework of Muhammad Prophet leadership model allows you to understand how do you make that right decision, right? Is that decision made on purely just on the force of profitability, or is it really to make a decision on humanity and purpose? So I think that process needs to be understood, and I think there's level of awareness on that profitable model. The leadership model for the profit is to understand that process, understand what drives the purpose, what serves humanity, and in order to make the right decision, you have to go through the different principles, understand the impact of those principles, and then that allows you to make the right decision. Unfortunately, in certain situations, you are not going to make the right decision, and I think then you need to look at it from a logic perspective and say, what good are you trying to achieve? And I think that's always important. Bring the goodness in, see what it means, and then make that difficult decision. But sometimes you have to stand by your principles. You have to stand by your purpose. And you need to justify that, to say, this is important. You have to, stick to that because it's for the greater good. And I think that's more important.
Shukran. Dr. Rashid, just want to come back to you. You spoke a lot about crisis, and we're speaking about decision making. But what I understood about what you said is sometimes the decision making is not it's not a process like a structured process. It happens intuitively, which you touched on, and you mentioned diversity as well quite strongly. Audience is asking, how do you balance between masculine and feminine qualities in being a leader? And from our personal perspective, we've seen a better delivery of outcome of the conference when we pulled females into our working group. Last year we didn't have a lot of females. This year we've got, and you can see the quality has increased, inshallah. So just a little bit.
I think what I was, why I use inverted commas for masculine and feminine qualities is that we put them into buckets. But the point is, women are allowed to be assertive without being seen to be aggressive, and men can be collaborative and softer without appearing to be more feminine. So I think if we just embrace that, and I think men should be more collaborative and embrace those qualities in every decision they make, and women are allowed to be assertive without being given a hard time or be labeled as difficult or aggressive, So I think that balance is really important. I just saw it's interesting. There's a whole book to be written there on leading by profit with an IT and prophetic leadership with a HET at the end. So it's quite interesting because it's the same word, but it could be quite interesting to see the difference in leadership based on the profit versus the financial profit.
Interesting, yeah. Shukran. So I think one of the questions posed as well, apologies we can't get to all of the questions, alhamdulillah we've got a lot of questions. So we also have divisions within the Muslim community, and sometimes we need to think about that and we need to build let's call it integration from that and move past that to get to a collective outcome. So Shahiem, quick 1 minute.
Sure. I'll be brief. We won't solve the problem of unity or disunity in our ummah in a conference like this or in 1 minute. But we can place down obvious markers, obvious signposts that direct us towards unity, and we can all agree on them. We need not go beyond that for today. Let's walk out of here today collectively agreeing that our unity is founded on certain principles like, for example, selflessness, less about me, more about you, being okay with making mistakes, in fact, embracing mistakes, because far too often we look at people and we disunite ourselves because somebody made a mistake, and we're so happy to point out that the next person made a mistake, and therein lies the cause of our disunity. And so if we start to change the narrative on error making, if we start to embrace errors within ourselves and across other people, very soon you'll find unity starting to emerge. Because now it's less of an opportunity for me to point a finger, and it's more of an opportunity for me to put an arm around a shoulder. So these are the kind of principles that we can all agree will unite us. But the problem is, how do we unite ourselves beyond nodding of the heads in a room like this today, and unite ourselves in the moments that matter most in between sessions like this? Uniting ourselves and uniting others in times of difficulty. Because right now there's no challenge in front of us. The most challenging thing is for us to stand here without saying the wrong thing. But the day and the time when you and I have challenges with one another, disagreements, organizations at loggerheads with one another, how then do we find the wherewithal? How do we find the personal leadership from within to try and remember that, hey, so-and-so made a mistake, it's a good thing. It's not a mistake that costs anybody anything other than the fact that it's a mistake. And so again, we can probably list 2 to 5 other principles, Ismail, that would help us unite, not only in technology, but as a society and an ummah. And I think that would probably help us.
Shukran. I think just one last question, because you spoke a lot about, just to end us off, about diversity, right? And what I'm understanding is that our differences could be a form of actually an opportunity and a strength. Can you just give us a few
It
points
absolutely
on that?
is, and I remember when we spoke on Voice of the Cape, we spoke about the importance of this network, but the importance then of other people, non-Muslim people, getting to hear this message. So we're not speaking in an echo chamber. And I look at people like Aisha and Shamira there who are in all these amazing tech networks. That's where the difference is being made. Your Muslim voice in a network of people who are not Muslim. I think that's important. And for all the people asking the questions, I just want to say, as I said in my talk, these questions are more important than the answers that we're giving you. So just keep asking the questions.
Yeah, so I think if the panelists are fine, we'll collate all these questions and maybe pose it to them and share it on the group, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan.